You may have come across this situation before. You have an application running on your device, you select something, and you see another activity. Well, that's fine when everything is just a single device screen of this particular screen ratio. But with the popularization and proliferation of tablets, there became a problem. The problem is that in Android you can only run one activity at a time. Well, how do we deal with this situation when we want to actually have two activities on the screen at the same time? What you do is rather than having activities, you use something in Android called Fragments. Fragments are pretty much the idea of having Activities 2.0. Each particular fragment is responsible for the layout and function, just like an activity. However, Android needed to make things backwards compatible. So rather than inserting an application layer underneath activities and having multiple activities run at once, they inserted another Activity 2.0 kind of layer above activities and allowed you to have these mini activities called fragments. Using fragments, you can create a fragment A and a fragment B, and then when you actually have a device layout, such as a tablet with more screen real estate, you can actually just have that particular fragment be combined in the same area. Now, there's definitely some things that we're going to need to pay attention to, but this is what is going to allow you to be able to take an application and deal with the fragmented sector of different device screen resolutions. In the beginning, Android wasn't so good at this with all the different devices, but now they have created such a great architecture to be able to make the same or similar application experience regardless of what kind of device you're running it on. So let's just take a look at the difference between these particular screen resolutions and how they work in the file structure. So in Android, we have the layout directory, which is what we've been using previously. Well, you can also specify a layout directory with the prefix of SW and then DP afterwards. These directories will be used in the case where the actual resolution is 800 or more. This is what allows us to say, hey, use this resolution if you're using a phone, use this resolution if you're using a tablet. The other thing that happens is this HDPI, MDPI, XHDPI, and XXHDPI. Now, these are not a one-to-one relationship. Each of these folders and their extensions are going to be used to kind of specify whether or not the screen density, that is the number of particular pixels per inch in the physical world, and the actual resolution, which is the number of pixels that the display is actually capable of displaying. When those number relationships are considered together, we can decide whether or not something should be using assets for a low, medium, high, or extra high DPI. You can get an appreciation for this if you just open up your activity main, or in this case I'm actually going to open up a fragment that we're going to use. And if you look up here at the preview window, we've done this a little bit before, but it's now more important than ever. Just switching the different displays is going to give you those different particular resolutions and a different asset folder. Here you can see that this one would be using XHDPI. This one would be using XXHDPI. This one would be using the HDPI resolution folder. Remember, this particular folder is different than the actual resolution of the display and device. This is the reason why we need to be careful to make sure everything that we create is very relative and proportional and not actual pixels. Otherwise, our particular applications that we create wouldn't be able to be so dynamic and so flexible for devices that are like this versus devices that are like this.